The year was 2247, and the galaxy was a bustling hub of interplanetary commerce, advanced technology, and alien civilizations. Humanity had long since joined the Galactic Union, a coalition of species from across the stars. But not everyone thrived in this new era. For some, like 34-year-old widow Mira Kale, life was a daily struggle to survive. Mira lived in the slums of New Terra, a human colony on the edge of the galaxy. Once a thriving mining planet, New Terra had fallen into decline after the mines dried up. The wealthy had left for greener pastures, leaving behind the poor and desperate. Mira was one of them. Her husband, Yarrick, had died in a mining accident 2 years ago, leaving her to raise their 8-year-old son, Eli, alone. Mira had tried everything to make ends meet. She'd applied for jobs at every alien-run corporation on the planet, but no one wanted to hire a human widow with no special skills. Aliens dominated the workforce, and they preferred their own kind, or at least humans with advanced degrees or cybernetic enhancements. Mira had neither. "Mom, I'm hungry," Eli said one evening, his voice trembling as he tugged at her sleeve. Myra's heart ached. She had sold everything of value: her wedding ring, Jarrick's old tools, even the family's last functioning holoscreen. All she had left was a small, crumbling apartment and a determination to keep her son alive. "I'll find something, Eli," she promised, though she had no idea how. The next day, Mira ventured into the city's industrial district, where alien-owned factories and warehouses lined the streets. She walked into a Zorlaxian-run factory, her hands shaking as she approached the hiring desk. The Zorlaxian manager, a tall, insectoid creature with shimmering blue exoskeleton, looked her up and down with disdain. "No humans," it hissed in broken galactic standard. "Too weak. No use." Mira tried to argue, but the manager waved her away with a clawed hand. She left, tears stinging her eyes. The next factory was run by the Quarians, a reptilian species known for their ruthlessness. The hiring manager, a scaly creature with glowing red eyes, didn't even let her finish her sentence. "We don't hire widows," it sneered. "Too emotional. Too unreliable." Myra's hope dwindled with each rejection. She was about to give up when she noticed a small, run-down building tucked between two massive factories. A faded sign above the door read, "Galactic Salvage and Repair. Human-owned." Mira hesitated. Human-owned businesses were rare on New Terra, and most were struggling to stay afloat. But she had nothing left to lose. She pushed open the door and stepped inside. The shop was cluttered with broken machinery, spare parts, and tools. A man in his late 40s stood behind the counter, his face smudged with grease and his hands busy tinkering with a malfunctioning drone. He looked up as Mira approached. "Can I help you?" he asked, his voice warm but tired. "I'm looking for work," Mira said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'll do anything. Cleaning, repairs, whatever you need." The man studied her for a moment, his eyes softening. "You're not from around here, are you?" "I live in the slums," Mira admitted. "My husband died 2 years ago, and I have a son to feed. No one else will hire me." The man sighed and set down his tools. "I'm sorry to hear that. My name's Carl, by the way. Carl Hargrove." "Mira Kale," she replied. Carl rubbed his chin, thinking. "I can't pay much," he said finally. "Business isn't great, but I could use an extra pair of hands. You ever worked with machines before?" Mira shook her head. "No, but I'm a fast learner." Carl smiled. "That's good enough for me. You start tomorrow." Mira threw herself into her new job, determined to prove herself. Carl taught her how to repair broken machinery, identify salvageable parts, and even operate a plasma torch. It was hard work and the pay was meager, but it was enough to keep food on the table. Eli often came to the shop after school, watching in awe as his mother worked. "You're amazing, Mom," he said one day, his eyes wide as she welded a cracked engine casing. Mira smiled, her heart swelling with pride. For the first time in years, she felt a glimmer of hope. But their newfound stability didn't last long. One evening, as Mira was closing up the shop, a group of alien thugs burst in. They were Zorlaxians, their exoskeletons gleaming under the dim light. "This is our territory now," one of them snarled. "You humans have no business here." Carl stepped forward, his hands raised. "We're just trying to make a living. We're not hurting anyone." The Zorlaxian leader backhanded Carl, sending him crashing into a pile of scrap metal. Mira screamed and rushed to his side, but the thugs grabbed her and dragged her outside. "This is a warning," the leader hissed. "Leave, or next time, we won't be so gentle." Mira helped Carl back into the shop, her hands trembling. "What are we going to do?" she asked, tears streaming down her face. Carl wiped blood from his lip, his expression grim. "We fight back." Over the next few weeks, Mira and Carl worked tirelessly to fortify the shop. They installed security cameras, reinforced the doors, and even built a makeshift defense system using salvage parts. Mira learned to operate a plasma cutter not just for repairs, but for protection. The Zorlaxians returned one night, expecting an easy victory. But they weren't prepared for the resistance they faced. Mira and Carl fought side by side, using their knowledge of machinery to outsmart the thugs. Mira's plasma cutter sliced through their exoskeletons, while Carl used a jury-rigged EMP device to disable their weapons. When the dust settled, the Zorlaxians fled, their tails between their legs. Mira stood amidst the wreckage, her chest heaving and her hands still gripping the plasma cutter. For the first time in years, she felt powerful. Word of their victory spread quickly through the slums. Other humans, inspired by Mira and Carl's bravery, began to rally around them. Together, they formed a community, pooling their resources and skills to rebuild their lives. Mira became a leader, her determination and resilience inspiring those around her. She and Carl expanded the shop, turning it into a hub for human innovation and solidarity. Years later, as Mira stood on the roof of the now thriving Galactic Salvage and Repair, she looked out over the city. The slums were gone, replaced by a vibrant community of humans and aliens working together. Eli, now a young man, joined her on the roof. "You did it, Mom," he said, his voice filled with pride. Mira smiled, her eyes glistening with tears. "We did it," she corrected. In a galaxy that had once rejected her, Mira had found hope, not in the stars, but in the strength of her own kind. And that was enough.